What's going on, everybody? My name is Bendy, and this is Disney Heroes. So, today, we are finally going to be counting down the top 10 blue skills in Disney Heroes. This one wound up actually being extremely close. I felt like every single skill that I put in this top 10 was very, very similar in power. Kind of similar to the green skill one that I did, if I remember correctly. It's been a little while. But yeah, it was pretty tough to actually make the order for this one. So I hope you guys like it. I've definitely put a lot of thought into this, a little bit too much thought. Quick disclaimer here, just like my other two lists, my white skill and my green skill list, I am only trying to consider what the blue skill does itself. I'm not taking into consideration the rest of the hero's kit, so if there is some cases where the skill boosts up another skill or is used by another skill on that hero's kit, I'm not taking into consideration how good the skills put together make. I'm trying to only consider the individual skill itself. This will come into play maybe like twice in this list. But yeah, I'm trying to only consider the blue skill itself, verbatim what it says on the blue skill. So that's just one quick disclaimer before I get started. So yeah, let's just get right into it. If you guys are enjoying my videos, definitely give me a like, subscribe, comment. I would hugely appreciate it. Join my Discord. My Discord's lit. We got a little over 200 people in there. We're always just chatting about Disney Heroes or DC Worlds Collide or even Pokemon sometimes. Eventually, we might have a game night. But yeah, so join my Discord. It's a lot of fun over there. Also, join my Twitter. No one's on my Twitter. Join my Twitter. I don't really do a whole lot over there. But Twitter! Let's get started here with number 10. The number 10 blue skill in Disney Heroes. I'm going to start this off with Mr. Big. Now, Mr. Big, if this were like the middle of last year or something like that, this probably would have been higher up on the list, but nowadays Mr. Big's kind of falling off, and so is Freeze in general. But this blue skill is like easily one of the most annoying skills in the entire game, which definitely gives it some props. So what this ability does is Mr. Big calls in a limo, and he takes away one enemy for 5 seconds, and they come back, they take about 5-ish million damage or so. And then they get frozen for at least 8 seconds, but not until they reach below 35% of their max HP. So basically what this means is they are frozen endlessly pretty much. It's like a never-ending freeze with this, and also if it keeps going off over and over again, the freeze just goes on and on and on forever pretty much. But honestly, the one big downside for this is it can kind of backfire on you. It can sometimes make fights longer than they need to be, or longer than you even want them to be, when you could very easily win the fight if you didn't take them away over and over again. And yeah, so that's why I have Mr. Big at number 10 in the blue skill list. So next on my list is going to be Disgust. Now, Disgust I almost didn't put on this list, but I was rereading all of my skills to finalize my list before I started this video, and at first I didn't think this one sounded super duper great, but upon rereading it and looking around at some skills and the hero stats and stuff for various heroes throughout Disney Heroes, this skill is definitely significantly better than I initially thought it was. So what it does is Disgust makes a face at the first enemy who KOs one of her allies, dealing about 15 million damage to them, which is decent damage. It's not like crazy amazing at this point, but then what it does is it reduces their basic damage and armor by about 2 million points for 8 seconds. So what this basically does is, especially the armor, it basically reduces their armor to literally 0, so that you can just instantly take them out. The one big downside to this is it only applies to the first enemy who KOs one of her allies, so it kind of depends on you having somebody go down at some point in the fight. But other than that, this skill is pretty ridiculous actually, and if you pair Disgust with somebody who does normal damage, which is quite a few heroes, this could be a really effective way to kind of help to take down a very scary opponent on the other team and then give yourself an opening to finish off the enemy line. So that's why I put Disgust at number 9. The number 8 blue skill in Disney Heroes is going to be Carmen. This is the case that I was talking about where I'm only considering just the blue skill itself, which makes the frontmost ally invincible for 8 seconds. This would have definitely been way higher if I was considering Kermit's entire kit as a whole, because this is obviously the ability that makes it so that his entire team turns invincible once he uses his white skill. But on the surface, and it doesn't apply to every ally, it kind of knocks it down a couple notches. But on the other hand, this is still a very useful ability, and it definitely helps with the tankiness of your overall team, especially if you are pairing Kermit with somebody who's not really tanky at all. Like if you put, say, like Shigo or Wasabi or somebody else who's a little bit more fragile up front, this definitely just helps with their survivability, even without Kermit's white skill being in play. So that's why I have Kermit at number 8. Number 7 is going to be Russell. Now, Russell's blue skill is insane for a few reasons. One, it does about 20 million damage 3 times. So this does about 60 million damage right off the bat. And then also on top of that, it applies Shatter for 8 seconds. Now, if you don't know what Shatter does, it makes enemies take 8% of their max HP as true damage each time they are dealt fantastic damage. Now, Shatter is ridiculous, and it's the reason that both Russell as well as Shigo especially are extremely strong. And it's pretty much the main reason that Shigo is as strong as she is in the game. But anyways, pretty much just wanted to include this one because it applies Shatter. And I'll give you a quick shout out to Shigo. She didn't actually make the list, spoiler alert, but this blue skill is actually pretty good too. She does more she heals every time she damages a shattered enemy, and she increases her attack speed by 75% when she falls below 50% of her HP. I just didn't include this because it doesn't actually apply Shatter itself. And it's dependent on her being below 50% of her max HP, which, depending on who you pair Shigo with, might never happen. The other reason that I wanted to include this on the list is this blue skill is the reason that Russell is so good for red invasion. This is what makes him and the rest of his team deal so much damage to the boss in invasion. And that's why Russell is number 7 on my list of blue skills. Now let's move on to number 6. Number 6 blue skill is going to be Madam Mim. Madam Mim's blue skill does a lot of things. In fact, it does 3 separate things depending on the role that you are hurting. So if you are going to be attacking a tank on the enemy team, it makes her deal instantly 35% of their max HP as damage. Now, this is 1, really good against tanks, and 2, this is why Madam Mim is good in invasion. This right here is why Mim does so much damage to the boss, because the boss in invasion is considered a tank. So this is why, if you actually watch the fight in invasion, why the bar on the boss just goes down instantly. The Tiger, this makes her apply 3 stacks of fatigue to damage roll heroes, so that's pretty huge. Fatigue is always super helpful. I think fatigue is kind of like a sleeper, really overpowered strategy in the game right now. I think fatigue is just really good, and it can totally wreck the enemy team in quite a lot of ways, actually, because, I mean, if you don't know what fatigue does, it prevents an enemy from getting a buff off on them. So this could be, say, a Kermit buff being applied. It can be literally anything, actually. So it works the exact same way as Hardy, but, you know, the opposite of Hardy. And then the last thing here is Dragon. This one, not quite as good, but against both control and support heroes, she deals about 27 million damage or so. Plus, I have a mod on her, so she does more for me. But if you have a mod, she'll do more. But she does about 27 million damage at max HP over 4 seconds to enemies hit with her Fire Breath. And this is against support and control heroes. So this blue skill does a lot of stuff, and is definitely one of the main reasons that Mim is really powerful in the meta right now. So that is why Madam Mim has the number 6 blue skill in Disney Heroes. Number 5. Now this is going to be kind of a surprise pick, I think, for a lot of people. But if you actually look at the skill itself, you'll see why I included it on this list. And you see I have to go all the way down to the bottom because I don't actually have them worked on, but Quacker Jack's blue skill. You're not going to see it on my screen here, but if you go over to the Wakatu page here for Quacker Jack and look at just how much damage this blue skill does, it is absolutely absurd. And this is why I have it at number 5. I actually at one point had this at number 1, but I kind of decided against it because ultimately, this only does damage. Only doing damage is kind of boring, and I didn't want to have just a damage dealing skill at number 1. So I decided against it, and I moved him down to number 5. Quacker Jack throws Mr. Banana Brain at the enemy with the most stacks of fatigue, and it explodes, dealing 72 million damage to enemies in an area, and an additional 42 million damage per stack of fatigue each enemy damage has. And he can do a maximum of 300 million damage with this ability. Are you seeing these numbers? That's literally even more ridiculous than Cheshire Cat's green skill. Absolutely bonkers how much damage this ability does. If you were to give this a blue skill mod, I guarantee you this would easily be over 100 million damage. I can't believe those are the real numbers, to be honest. I mean, I haven't seen it in game for myself, because I don't really see too many Quacker Jacks out there, but I just could not believe how much damage this does. So that is why Quacker Jack is at number 5. Again, I would honestly have had it a little bit higher, but at the end of the day, it only does damage. So you could kind of probably easily counter this with a number of things. So the fact that it only does damage kind of brings it down a notch, but still, probably the highest numbers I've ever seen in this game. So let's move on to number 4. Number 4 blue skill, which is another hero that I don't actually have worked on, is Swedish Chef. So what this does is Swedish Chef heals himself, and he also grants himself the last 4 buffs that were blocked by his fatigue, or by, I guess, any fatigue, are applied to him. So this can really create a lot of fun, random little chaotic things in the fight. Say if you pair this with Kermit with his white skill, you could literally pass along anything over to the rest of your team with Swedish Chef and Kermit combo. That's just one quick example, but there's a ton of things you could do with this. And this, I just think it's a really fun ability, and it's definitely the main reason that Swedish Chef is at the top of the meta still. Even though I don't see too many Swedish Chefs in the game. I don't have Swedish Chef personally. But yeah, so this ability is just fun and ridiculous, and it creates a lot of chaos on the field.
It just kind of meowed more.
That's crazy.
What's more fun than that? So that's why I have Swedish Chef at number 4. So number 3, we're going back into heroes that I actually have powered up. So number 3 on my list of blue skills is going to be Ian. Ian's blue skill, it gets a little bit overshadowed by Ian's Reflect mainly, but this blue skill is actually really good, and it's just another reason that Ian is one of the best in the whole game, and still is to this day, even though he's been in the game for a very long time now. Ian attempts to use Magnora Gantuan on an ally, but it misfires and hits an enemy instead, the closest enemy. And they get shrunk, so they have their max HP reduced by about 2.5-ish million. Is that what that says? No, that's 23 million. I really hate that they don't have commas in this game. It's so annoying. Their basic damage is reduced by about 5 million-ish, and their movement speed is reduced by 75%. So basically what this means is the enemy that gets shrunk by this ability basically becomes useless for 12 seconds and is extremely easy to take down. That's really the main use for this. If you've used Ian before, or even seen Ian before, you know that this ability is extremely annoying to face, and it really is just one of the main reasons that Ian is really good, and I think it gets kind of overshadowed a lot by his other abilities. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I don't know, it's just a very underrated ability, and that's why I have it at number 3. So number 2, blue skill in Disney Heroes. This actually made a pretty big jump. I didn't have this up so high, but Bolt's blue skill is pretty awesome, actually. It deals about 36 million damage. Look at all those 6s. Ugh, Satan. But yeah, so it does about 36 million damage to the enemy with the highest normal crit. It also stuns them for 8 seconds, steals 210 energy. I don't know why they went with 210, that's a really weird number. And removes all shields from them. So, this does 4 things at once. I mean, this has a chance to fail, so you need to have it at max level, but definitely one of the main reasons that Bolt is really good. I mean, all of Bolt's kit is just really overpowered, I'd say. This is definitely a really good reason to use Bolt. It just does a lot of things, and I like that about him. So, this little pup, pretty sick. And that's why Bolt made it to number 2. So, before we move on to number 1, I got a few honorable mentions I wanted to bring up really quick. I'm going to make this super fast for you guys. The first one that I wanted to talk about really quick was Sisu. Sisu's blue skill, I was really close to putting it on the list, but I decided against it just because I felt like it wasn't quite as good as all the other ones that I included on this list, but it deals about 22 million damage, fantastic damage, and blinds them for 8 seconds, which blind is it's not that great. Sisu also steals 8 million skill power, or if you give it mods, even more than that, from the enemy, and gives it to herself as well as an ally, and she prioritizes damage roll heroes, but it basically just goes to whatever ally has the highest skill power. I was actually just thinking, before I started this video, that I could pair Sisu with Nick, and we could just share all of the skill power in the entire world. So I was actually kind of thinking of making a Sisu, Megara, Shigo line with somebody else. I haven't figured that out yet, just to make Shigo do absolutely ridiculous damage. And it might be kind of hard to take down. So that's kind of what I was thinking of doing. But yeah, the Sisu blue skill is pretty sick. Now, Darkwing Duck I also was really close to putting on this list, but at the end of the day, it does about 9 million damage, although this means that it does about 36 million damage if you take into account the fact that Darkwing Duck is guaranteed to super crit, and then it also stuns for 6 seconds, and then if they are already stunned, it extends it by 5 seconds. So this ability, pretty good. I was really close to putting it on the list. It's definitely a pretty good reason to use Darkwing Duck, but just didn't quite make the list. The next one was Slinky Dog. I'm kind of just a shield hater. I don't think shields are super great, to be honest. So this blue skill, what it does is it gives a shield for about 15 million HP to the frontmost ally, and when it is removed, they gain armor and reality for 8 seconds. So it's a great defensive ability. Just didn't quite make the list because, I don't know, I'm kind of just a shield hater, and I think Slinky's kind of on his way out anyways, as far as the meta goes. Slinky was really dominant for a very long time as a tank, but overall, it's a pretty good ability. The next one is probably the other most annoying ability in the entire game, and that's going to be Cronk's blue skill. This is the one that makes the random enemy leave the field for 7 seconds, then they come back. It's just a really annoying ability. It doesn't really do anything other than take them off the field, so I was just like, eh. But I thought I would give it a nice little shout out because it's one of the main reasons that Cronk is so weird to face and makes it very difficult to get quick fights in Arena Coliseum and stuff like that. So I just wanted to give Cronk a quick shout out because this is just a very strange blue skill, and that's that. And then the last honorable mention I had was Pocohontas. Flies at a random enemy, deals 3 million or 32 million damage, stuns for 3 seconds, and removes 2 of their active buffs with the longest remaining duration. So this also probably could have made the list. Also, I just felt like it was like, not quite as good as some of the other ones. So yeah, that's the honorable mentions. Let's move on to what I think is the #1 blue skill in Disney Heroes, which I think you guys might disagree with me on, but I'm going to try and explain myself here. I think it is a sleeper game-changing ability that I think some people definitely overlook and others swear by it, which I definitely swear by it. I think Angel's blue skill is insane. Now, on the surface, this doesn't look that ridiculous. When an ally is KO'd, she revives them, heals them for 16 million HP, and they become invincible for 5 seconds, and she can only use this once per wave. This is definitely the main reason that Angel is such a good hero, and why she's still at the top of my tier list, even though I think a lot of people seem to think that she doesn't really belong up there anymore. But I think if you've played, especially at the top levels of play for a very long time, Angel is literally in almost every single lineup that people make. Not only that, she has her own revive also, so she revives herself, and she also revives one ally per fight. Obviously, she revives herself on another skill, so I'm not putting that into consideration. But, so if you don't have Megara, Angel is kind of just like another Megara for Shigo or Wasabi or somebody else who's super frail like that, which is one really huge thing. This also just helps with the longevity of your team overall. And I don't know, this ability is really good. Maybe I can put something in the background here to show just how good this is. But when I first got Angel, because I was very excited about Angel right away anyways, for some reason, I just wanted to work on her right away, even though I didn't even know what she did. But I was trying to figure out why Angel was so good and why every single time I put her in a lineup, I would just win. And I think this is the reason. And also just the fact that they're invincible for 5 seconds is also just huge. Makes it so that her teammate doesn't just instantly die again as soon as they get revived. It's definitely a lot more game changing than it looks on the surface. And that's why I have Angel at #1. So, do you guys agree with my list? Let me know down below what your top 10 blue skills are in Disney Heroes. If you guys disagree with my list, I'm sorry. This is my opinion though, and my opinion is correct. Just letting you know. Your opinion sucks, and I hope you die. But yeah, what's your list down below? Let me know in the comments. I want to see what you guys think are the top 10 blue skills in Disney Heroes. And yeah, I think that's going to be it. So, peace. 3, 4, 5. Pokemon. How did Pooh go down?
NANI?! お前は